Okay, so hello all and welcome to our 2024 Student Government Association debate. I want to thank all of our wonderful candidates for being here and then also everybody in the audience. This year we have a plethora of new faces in the candidate pool, so we are super excited to get to learn more about each candidate and their platform as the night unfolds. The Wright State Guardian is proud to partner with the Special Elections Committee to facilitate discussion of issues currently facing the student body among potential future members of SGA. Tonight we have 2 presidential and then 2 vice presidential candidates running, and then 4 senators, including 2 for the College of Business. The first part of tonight's event will focus on the student body's presidential and vice presidential candidates, and then we'll welcome the senators up to the stage. This year's moderation panel is composed of the editorial staff of the Wright State Guardian. My name is Alexis Lewis, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the Guardian, and then I have managing editor Aaron Klein with me, and then we'll be moderating the first part of tonight's events. Questions asked during today's events have been predetermined by the moderation panel and have not been shared with the candidates. During tonight's event, moderators will be accepting questions from the live stream chat and social media via the Guardian's Instagram account, and we'll also be accepting your guys' note cards as well. Before moving on to the questions, the presidential and vice presidential candidates will each have 30 seconds to introduce themselves. This year, our presidential candidates are Marwa Al-Mazougi and Vivian Mellon, and the respective vice presidential candidates are Kareem Kasane and Maxwell Bacon. Ms. Al-Mazougi, your 30 seconds begins now.
Hello everyone, I would like to thank you all for coming today. My name is Marwa Al-Mazougi. I'm a 3rd year undergrad student majoring in international studies with a concentration in international diplomacy and peace studies and minor in political science.
Thank you. Senator Mellon, you can begin when you're ready.
All right, hello everyone. I am Vivian Mellon. I am currently a 3rd year as well. I have a double major. One of my majors is in political science, and my second major is in crime and justice studies, and I also have a minor in legal studies.
Mr. Kasane, you may begin when you're ready.
Hello, everybody. Of course, as Marwa said, I'd like to thank everybody here for coming out and the organizers for organizing this. My name is Kareem Kasane. I am a 4th year industrial engineering student as well as a 1st year master's industrial engineering student. I've been around Wright State campus for about 3 years now, transferred over from Sinclair, and it seems like I'm here to stay for about another 2 years of my master's. So.
Okay, and then Mr. Bacon, whenever you're ready.
Hello everybody, like most of you know, my name is Maxwell Bacon. I'm a transfer from Clark State. I'm a 3rd year. I'm a former track athlete for Wright State University, as well as the treasurer of Amigos Latinos, and hopefully your next vice president. Nice to meet you, and thank you for having me.
We will now begin the set of questions for presidential and vice presidential candidates. Alexis will pose 1 question to each presidential candidate who will have 1 minute to answer. I will then pose a question to the vice presidential candidates who will also have 1 minute to answer. The time will start when we have finished reading the question. You do not have to utilize the whole minute for your answer. We will now begin.
Ms. Al-Mazougi, what do you hope to accomplish during your time as student body president?
I would like to work on better communication, both within students and student government, as well as within administration and the students as well.
And Senator Mellon, what do you hope to accomplish during your time as student body president?
I hope to accomplish bridging the gap between SGA and the student body. One way I hope to do that is by bringing back something SGA used to do previously called Raider Nights in the city, kind of looking at all realms of bringing that back as a possibility so we can get more connected and more involved with our student body.
Mr. Kasane, as vice president and a member of student government, you must be a voice for students. How do you plan to advocate for the students you represent?
Being a voice, I think it's the least of my problems. As people would know me, Debbie would be the first one to advocate for such. I heavily want to focus on bringing up the student voices and listening to what they have to say and what they would like to happen on Wright State campus, whether it's through involvement or whether it's through connection with better professors. And I plan to use their voices and advertise their voices via social media, via on campus, telling other students what other students would like to see, and basically getting a overall look on what the Wright State student body would like to see at Wright State campus. And being one of the students here, I also have visions as well, and will contribute to that as well.
Thank you. Mr. Bacon, as Vice President and a member of student government, you must be a voice for students. How do you plan to advocate for the students you represent?
It will have to all come through communication mainly, discussing with the students how we can change not just the academic field, but how we can gather more students within our college life and bring them on campus, and helping us represent our communities, my amigos, Latinos, helping each other. I'm lost for words. I'm so sorry. I need a second. I got nervous there. I'm so sorry.
Ms. Almazugi, student body president comes with many essential responsibilities. What do you feel is the most important responsibility of the student body president?
Next one.
I would say being kind of available for students. I think being a known face and just somebody that everybody is comfortable reaching out to, regardless of who they are, their background, anything like that, where they are in their academic journey. I think being available and being there to listen is one of the most important parts in representing any group of people, really. So.
And Senator Mellon, student body president, comes with many essential responsibilities, but what do you feel is the most important responsibility of the student body president?
I think the most important responsibility is making yourself available, but also coming up to students that may feel shy, may not want to express their voice vividly in our meetings, kind of coming up to them and being their voice, because I have the privilege of being confident enough to raise my voice both on the social media platform and the in-person over the mic platform.
Mr. Kasane, student mental health is one of the most significant challenges facing students in their college experience. How do you plan to serve students to aid in this issue and other challenges students face?
As simple as being an open ear to students, to listen to their needs. Mental illness and mental struggles is a real thing. You know, it is a real thing, despite what people may think of it. Being a student is not easy, with the amount of pressure that's on us through academically, socially, and everything that comes about with it. I, for sure, will start by being an open ear, listening to what they have to say, and then also being active, and not only just listening, but acting towards a better change for those students.
Thank you. Mr. Bacon, student mental health is one of the most significant challenges facing students in their college experience. How do you plan to serve students to aid in this issue and other challenges students face?
I'd say just letting people understand that there is a place for them in our environment, giving them a shoulder to lean on, and giving them a place where they can feel more heard and welcome. I'd say we'd have to come at our freshman class primarily and give them more of a community to actually come into and understand that they actually belong in a space like this. I think that would help out a lot.
Thank you.
Ms. Amazugi, how do you plan to represent all groups and identities on campus?
So I myself am an immigrant. I came here, I was different than everybody else in my school. And I learned that throughout leadership, it means that you're a person of service. And to be a person of service, it doesn't necessitate that you are part of every single group that you are representing. And so everyone has their own specific needs, and just being open-minded to hearing every individual's issues, struggles, concerns, needs, anything like that, would be a start of representing various groups that we may or may not belong to.
And Senator Mellon, how do you plan to represent all groups and identities on campus?
I plan to represent all identities on campus by lending an open ear, paying attention to what they are saying, how they are feeling, and acting upon those on how we can improve campus for them for the better. So both listening and acting.
Mr. Kasane, this is a two-part question. You will have 1 minute for each question. The Vice President is also the head of the Senate. So how do you perceive the role of the Senate?
Oh, I thought, okay. So that was the first part. Okay. Okay. So, ask the question one more time.
Okay, now you're fine. The Vice President is also the head of the Senate. So how do you perceive the role of the Senate?
How do I see? Oh, okay. The role of the Senate, the way I look at it, is obviously I am that representative. Like I'm just gonna put myself in the senator position. I am the representative of Set College. I represent that college through my academic excellence, through my character, and through my good action on campus. I'm, as head of Senate now, that's the one delegate or the one that's leading all the Senates. I plan not only to do the same as an engineering student, but the same as a Wright State student. To not only lead with my words, but lead with example of my through my academic excellence again, through my character and through good action on campus.
The second part of the question is how do you intend to monitor the Senate's performance of their roles and lead the body?
Okay, so through having leadership experience by being president of the Muslim Student Association for 2 years alongside Marwa here, I've had plenty of experiences through leading a team. Leading a team has now become somewhat second nature to me. Through delegating the proper tasks, knowing the strengths and weaknesses through each one of my team members, knowing what proper tasks I should give each one of them so that task could be properly done. I'm not going to give, for example, an engineering student an art project or vice versa. That's number one. Number two is also not by putting too much pressure on my team as well. At the end of the day, we're all one team working to achieve the same goal, and that's how I would approach it.
Mr. Bacon, this is the same two-part question. You will have 1 minute for each question. The first question is, the Vice President is also the head of the Senate. So how do you perceive the role of the Senate?
It would just strictly bounce back to communication with all of my colleagues, seeing ways that we could improve as leader of the COLA, seeing how we can improve in vast assets along the school as well, seeing what could we specifically add, what could we push towards progressing in our student government, and I'd say that's it.
The second part of the question is how do you intend to monitor the Senate's performance of their roles and lead the body?
Could you please repeat the question?
Yes, of course. The second part of the question is how do you intend to monitor the Senate's performance of their roles and lead the body?
I see. That would also come back to more communication, strictly looking at how well we're performing, how I'm performing as a student as well, and strictly reflecting on our roles as in that position. I don't know why my head is. I'm so sorry. I might have to skip that one too. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Ms. Almazugi, this is a two-part question, and you'll have 1 minute to answer both parts. The first question is, how familiar are you with the current SGA Constitution and bylaws?
I was not part of SGA, and so my knowledge is strictly through what I can see online and what my friends who are currently part of SGA have provided me to. So I'm very open to learning more about it.
And the second part of the question is, are there any aspects that you would like to change or add to the Constitution or bylaws as the president?
I have an idea of providing a first-year council, possibly including it within SGA or something close enough to it, and which would provide first-year students kind of an opportunity for mentorship and a little bit of practice to transition into being in student government in the future and taking up leadership positions in various organizations. So that's something that I would look into implementing.
And then Senator Mellon, this is a two-part question, and you'll have 1 minute to answer both parts. How familiar are you with the current SGA Constitution and bylaws?
I am very familiar. I am a current senator in SGA. I am the senator for the College of Liberal Arts. So I have access to our Constitution and our bylaws, and I do read them kind of regularly, kind of before our meetings if I'm not too clear on a resolution that's being proposed or an issue that's being brought to us. So I am very familiar.
And the second part of the question is, would you want to change any part of the Constitution or bylaws as president?
I don't see anything that needs change to myself personally. Just kind of listening to what people have to say next year and seeing if anything does. But as of right now, I don't see anything that needs changed.
Thank you. And we'll go ahead and proceed with the second set of questions that we have. You will all each have 45 seconds to answer these questions. The time will start when I finish reading the question, and you don't have to use the entire 45 seconds. We'll start with Ms. Amazugi. What is the biggest issue facing the student body at Wright State, and how do you plan to combat this issue?
I would say possibly, we have a lot of good involvement, but I think that compared to other universities, our organizations and kind of student groups are a little bit too spread out. And so in my time in SGA in the future, I hope to kind of build connections between these organizations and even colleges as well to provide, I guess, a stronger sense of unity on campus. And that would probably also contribute to a greater, Wright State experience, student experience, and just a more lively campus.
And then the question again for Senator Mellon. What do you feel is the biggest issue facing the student body at Wright State, and how do you plan to combat this issue?
So right now, I feel the biggest issue that is facing the students at Wright State is the gap and the bridge between students and administration with things that have been brought into question recently. I think that has come up more within this semester, and it's something that I really want to address next year. So I hope to do that by bringing in administration to talk in our meetings regularly like we had this year, allowing students to kind of ask their questions and get those answers that they are searching for.
Mr. Kasana, how would you intend to fill the vacancies in the Senate?
One more time.
How would you intend to fill the vacancies in the Senate?
I don't understand the question.
So each year, there's usually a vacancy in the Senate, whether that be from the Lake campus or a residential or commuter senator. So what is your course of action in order to fill those spots or get people interested in filling those spots?
Oh, okay, gotcha. I think by having an active, kind of bouncing on what Marwa said, having an active life on campus, both here in Lake campus. I mean, I've never been to Lake campus. I can't judge how the life is there. But increasing the life on campus by making it more attractive for students does make them more attracted to having them involved in leadership positions, and by that being involved, it bridges those gaps, it bridges those empty spaces basically that we are looking to fill up. Actually, I'll keep it at that. I'll talk about how the life, we'll talk about that later.
Mr. Bacon, the same question to you. How would you intend to fill the vacancies in the Senate?
I feel as though that stems from our lack of a student body regarding the campus life here. It's lacking in the sense that we need to communicate more with our freshmen and get them more involved with our campus. As a freshman, for me personally, I remember feeling extremely lost, and it wasn't until my sophomore year of college where I got involved with Amigos Latinos and actually started to understand what was going on around my campus and my student body, understanding that there was more to do around campus besides just going to class and just going straight home. And we do actually have a larger issue at Wright State regarding students that would rather go to class and not necessarily get involved with our student body. And I feel as though by pushing more students, definitely the freshmen who are incoming and feel lost, I feel as though that would help out.
Thank you.
Ms. Almazugi, how would you intend to fill the appointed positions on the executive board, cabinet, senate, and other vacant roles?
I would most likely rely a lot on the feedback from the pre-existing boards right now, just to give me a feedback on understanding of like how the positions have been established before and whatnot. And I think continuing with, I guess, how do you say it? It's like increasing the involvement in general and within colleges and representing those positions and advocating that everybody has the opportunity to fill in these positions, because I feel like sometimes it can be due to misunderstanding. Like you have to have like specific requirements, and sometimes people overthink those requirements. So just kind of bridging the gap of understanding.
And then Senator Mellon, the same question. How would you intend to fill the appointed positions on the executive board, cabinet, senate, or other vacant roles?
So I would look at each role, what it is specifically. So for example, we have a director of academic affairs, and I would look at if people have a special interest in academics, or if they have a special interest in health and wellness, because we have a student director of campus health and wellness. Seeing if they are interested in joining SGA and filling that position, if they have a special interest in that, so that they would be motivated to fill that position.
And Ms. Almazugi, will actually come back to you. Part of your platform is to unite students on campus through Raider spirit. How do you plan to accomplish this goal?
I think one thing is first starting with like the freshmen. I worked in orientation as an orientation ambassador and a first weekend leader, and I think a lot of the students kind of fear being involved, like coming to a basketball game or anything like that, or like starting to show up to events. And so I think establishing, kind of being proactive with these things would increase that Raider spirit, and also building that sense of unity within organizations that already exist. That would most likely like all come together to kind of bring up that Raider spirit.
Senator Mellon, part of your plans as president are to bring back Raider Nights in the city. How do you plan to accomplish this goal?
So I would talk to administration, see how we can allocate budget for Raider Nights in the city, because that's how I got interested in SGA in the first place, and I think it would get students connected, kind of looking at any and all avenues we can take, looking at plans A, B, and C on how we can get that back from a like administration standpoint.
Mr. Casano, part of your platform is to create a first-year leadership council. How do you plan to facilitate this relationship with new students?
As simple as I heavily believe in leading by example, by being active and a part of first weekend to get to know the freshmen, not only just know them as those are the freshmen, but know them by name, know them personally, and for them to know me as well. Me recognize their faces and them to recognize me as well. Building that sense of relationship of basically comfort between me and the incoming students, opening those doors of involvement. Yeah, that's about it.
Mr. Bacon, you and Senator Mellon are part of COLA. How do you plan to reach other colleges and areas on campus?
Communicating with them through multiple different classes that I'm still am a part of. When it comes to knocking out those gen eds, I would also go about collecting them through our Amigos Latinos environment, other groups along campus, not just my own, through the SGA, gathering them through to SGA as well.
Ms. Almazugi, SGA discussed 3 sponsored resolutions within the first week and one additional one in December during the fall semester of this academic year. In the spring semester, the group supported only 2 more resolutions. How do you plan to stay consistent through the year to continuously serve the Wright State population?
Could you repeat the question one more time?
Do you want me to repeat the whole thing, or do you want just the question?
The question.
How do you plan to stay consistent through the year to continuously serve the Wright State population?
I think starting off with having consistent meetings with the student body would be a good opportunity to hear what the students are looking to see, what are their concerns, and where do they stand in understanding what is happening in terms of like administration or changes that are taking place on campus would be probably the start, I would say.
And Senator Mellon, the same question to you. How do you plan to stay consistent through the year to continuously serve the Wright State population?
So being an SGA this year, I kind of felt our kind of loss of motivation to present those resolutions and write our own resolutions. So I would definitely maintain contact with our senators and directors and also people around campus, such as one that I came up with today. I'm going to write with the Women's Center, kind of like adjunctly, with getting free feminine hygiene products in our bathrooms. I'm going to write a resolution on that at the end of this year. So kind of seeing things around campus people may not know they can write a resolution about, and informing them that they can write a resolution about that.
Mr. Kasane, how do you plan to motivate the Senate and connect all members of SGA?
As cliche as it sounds, you know how we kept, all of us here candidates keep repeating the word communication, right? And how do I plan? Now, okay, communication vague, what do I plan to do with that? To bounce on, again, what Mama was saying, having regular meetings, weekly meetings, a few times a week meetings, whatever it may be, whatever is necessary, with the Senate, like our SGA body basically, SGA members and student body. So we're all on the same page, as well as we're on the same page with what the students want for us as well, or want from us as well. Holding weekly meetings can sometimes sound tedious, like, oh, I gotta go to this meeting every week, whatever. But it's the reason, it's the core of what keeps us consistent to reach towards that end goal.
Thank you. Mr. Bacon, the same question to you. How do you plan to motivate the Senate and connect all members of SGA?
Could you repeat the question one more time?
Of course. How do you plan to motivate the Senate and connect all members of SGA?
I think I would just strictly communicate them with them, in order to motivate everybody within the SGA, I would just strictly communicate and talk about the fruits of our labor, how we are changing the campus as a community. I think that would motivate a lot of people in sticking around and wanting to help contribute, and thank you.
So we're now on to our final question for the presidential and vice presidential candidates. Ms. Amazugi, as students walk away from this debate, what should the student body anticipate from you as SGA president?
I would say one thing is that I look forward into being present and available, just kind of whenever there are students here with concerns or leaders especially, because sometimes students would kind of feel a little bit scared or shy from approaching like student government or somebody who they might see just in leadership, but they might be comfortable with someone who's in charge of an organization that they are a part of. And so I encourage, if you are in a leadership position and if you're not, to always be consistent in being proactive about what you would like to see and questions and things like that. So.
And Senator Mellon, as students walk away from this debate, what should they know? What should they anticipate from you as SGA president?
They should definitely anticipate me coming up to them asking, "Hi, I'm Vivian Mellon. What would you like to see around campus?" So I can kind of advocate for them at our meetings, write resolutions on their behalf, and be an active voice for them when it comes to being in SGA.
Mr. Casana, as students walk away from this debate, what should the student body anticipate from you as SGA Vice President?
Change, definitely change towards the future of Wright State University student body. It's easy to point out the problems. I mean, that is the first step of solving a problem, is pointing out what it is. But it's more important to take action towards solving that problem. Through being in positions of leadership before, I've been put in many situations where this is the problem, with no solution visible when I look at that problem. So now it's like, I gotta crack down that problem. Why is that problem happening? What caused that problem? Who's involved? Therefore, then I come up with a change to not only solve the problem, but also make sure it doesn't occur again in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Bacon, as students walk away from this debate, what should the student body anticipate from you as SGA Vice President?
I'd say a lot of engagement, understanding that the SGA not only the campus, but also the SGA is a part of your home, understanding why you need to contribute, why you can help progress our campus and make campus life a lot better for incoming freshmen. How could the incoming freshmen as well not only help improve the campus, but understanding that help them understand that this too is a place that is I'm stuttering so bad. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we will move to the online questions and then our questions on our note cards. We'll first give you guys each 45 seconds to respond. If we're getting close on time, we'll probably cut it down to 30 seconds, but right now you'll have 45 seconds. So we'll start with presidential candidates. So Ms. Abazugi, this question reads, I hear a lot about programs, events, and student involvement, but what about actual governing? Loss of motivation, but you are compensated to represent our interests.
Could you repeat that question one more time, please?
So the question is, I hear a lot about programs, events, and student involvement, but what about actual governing?
Is that, I would assume that's in terms of, I guess, academic policies and whatnot. I would say my first step is obviously receiving these questions and concerns, and then kind of taking them up to action. Possibly, I feel like part of a lot of what's happening is like a lack of communication between administration and the students, and it is our job as student government to kind of bridge that gap in terms of governing as well. So.
And Senator Mellon, the same question to you. I hear a lot about programs, events, and student involvement, but what about actually governing?
So at every meeting SGA has had this semester, which we do have weekly meetings, every week we have either a guest speaker come and talk about what they want to see around campus, and that is how we govern. We hear students what they want to hear, and then we act on it. And we have acted on what students have come forth to us, asking about and wanting to see around campus, writing resolutions. I'm, like I said, working on a resolution for feminine hygiene products in the bathrooms, and also creating a new major within COLA for students that feel their major is kind of neglected.
So this next question we'll ask the vice presidential candidate. So Mr. Kasani, communication is great, but I don't hear a lot of ideas to make real change. What will you do to push back and advocate for students?
Okay. So one of the main ideas I actually had, this is a little less, I guess, about communication and more focused on involvement when it comes to change. I thought about an idea that how can we bring student involvement, or basically attract students towards inside the Wright State campus, as well as not have it be too difficult for Wright State itself to implement. So I thought about, is it okay if I go a little bit over? Okay. So you guys all know the quad, you guys all know the quad. It's pretty spacious area. It's, however, empty. And then, at first it's like, oh, what if like we build some sort of like food, whatever there? Like, oh, well, that's gonna be costing a lot of money for Wright State. The best idea that I have come up with, and I can get your guys' opinions on this as well. What if on some days of the week, whether let's just say it's like Mondays and Wednesdays, we reach out to food cart vendors, and they basically pay Wright State to rent that space for a set amount of hours, where then Wright State is benefiting. But then also by having that food there, that automatically attracts students. You want people to come to your thing, have food, right? So by having food vendors, just food trucks along the quad, and then using that green space as like picnic area, having seating and so on and so forth, that's a specific action that I have thought about to increase student involvement. Hope that answers the question.
Thank you. And then Mr. Bacon, same question to you. Communication is great, but I don't hear a lot of ideas to make real change. What will you do to push back and advocate for students?
I don't quite understand how communication wouldn't contribute to the change, but when I think of like communication in this sense, I would rather think of like communicating the idea of like trying to get students involved in certain academic fairs and seeing how they could. No, I feel like that would involve change either way. People coming into campus life and understanding like what they're getting involved with. I think that would change the trajectory of students and what campus life means to them.
Ms. Almazugi, what would you do to prevent the constant change of advisors?
The constant change of advisors.
The second part to clarify real quick. How would you strengthen career services?
I think one thing is, again, being proactive with those resources. I'm part of the Provost Leadership Council, and that's been a topic that we've been discussing a lot recently. There are a lot of resources at Wright State, but we need to be more proactive with them and advertising them more effectively in a way that students can actually receive that information. And what was the first part of the question?
What would you do to prevent the constant change of advisors?
The constant change of the advisors. I think that would possibly depend on the colleges themselves, but I would say I've had that problem myself. When I first started, I think I've had like 3-4 different advisors. But probably communicating that to the administration and facilitating it possibly based on specific programs rather than just the colleges themselves would possibly maintain it for a little bit longer.
Thank you. And Senator Mellon, the same questions. What would you do to prevent the constant change of advisors, and how would you strengthen career services?
So I am close with Amanda Spencer, who is the head of all academic advising on Wright State's campus. So I would definitely, like I said, go up to her, be proactive, set up a meeting with her, looking at why the rate of advisors changing is so high, looking at that reason, seeing what we can do if it is something that can be fixed. And it does depend from each college why they are changing so much. And also with career services, kind of looking at what internships and things students need within that specific college, and seeing how we can get more students in those opportunities so they are a more used office on campus. But definitely going to Amanda Spencer, setting up a meeting, seeing where that's happening.
Thank you.
Okay, so for the vice presidential candidates, Mr. Pisane, how do you plan on prioritizing SGA over other commitments and positions you have on campus?
Time management. I, as well as everybody else in here, don't just have one thing going on in their lives. I have plenty of things going on in my life. And you can see in my backpack, I have a calendar. I literally time from this time slot to this time slot, I'm doing such and such. And from this, I'm doing such and such. So time management and organization, not only within myself as a person and as a leader, but also with the team that I've been working with as well. Keeping them on the same page as me, telling them that this is what's going to happen at this time, at this date, will allow great progress within SGA, at the same time being able to do other things as well.
Mr. Bacon, same question to you. How do you plan on prioritizing SGA over other commitments and positions you have on campus?
It comes down to time management for me as well. Each year I buy a large poster board and I cut it up into specific segments for each week on how I need to manage my time regarding my classes, regarding my work schedule. Joining the SGA, I did have to cut back a little bit on work, and I reckon I would have to cut back on more in the future as well, but that's how essentially I keep up with all of my obligations.
For the presidential candidates, Ms. Amazuki, can you share an example of a mistake you made and what you learned from it?
I had this one time that actually happened within the Muslim Student Association. So being a leader, sometimes you would want things to be a specific way, and Kareem knows about this story, so that's why he's laughing. And we wanted like a specific post, like to be posted like a certain way, like the design of it and whatnot. And I kind of like overstepped a little bit with the details of it. And Kareem, being a great co-president in the organization, he pointed it out and was like, Marwa, you're doing a little bit more than you need to be doing, and that Kent wasn't allowing other people to be creative. And so just kind of like realizing whenever you do slip off or you overcommit to something, that was something that I did and then learned from it. And then after that, I believe we had like posts like go crazy with likes and everything, so it was great.
Thank you. And the same question to Senator Mellon. Can you share an example of a mistake you made and what you learned from it?
Yes. So at the beginning of this year, I wanted to be involved as I possibly could. I cannot tell you how many positions I had in different organizations. I was stressing myself out, and I was so like mentally unhealthy that it got the worst it has ever been in my entire life. I had to prioritize, seeing what was really important to me. If something was causing me more stress than it should, then I knew that I needed to cut it out of my life. Obviously, I want to be the best leader I can be, and when I'm stressed and not mentally healthy, I'm not the best that I can be. So I had to fix that by prioritizing what I wanted to do, what I was passionate about.
Thank you.
And then for the vice presidential candidates, we'll start with Mr. Bacon this time. SGA recently passed a resolution that would add a $200 fee to all new students. Do you support this resolution?
No, I do not.
Mr. Kasane, SGA recently passed a resolution that would add a $200 fee to all new students. Do you support this resolution?
What's the resolution?
So the resolution is to add a campus recreation like space on campus. I'm pretty sure that was it, question mark?
To do a new career services space.
And a new career services space. And it would add a $200 fee to all new students,
The incoming cohort.
the incoming cohort.
Okay. No. I guess so. I see the dilemma. That's why I kind of thought about it. We need to somehow bring in a source of income. I mean, I guess our number one source of income is our students, right? They pay to be here. I feel like, however, if we find a way, and I think there's many ways we could. I mean, I can't. You know, that was one idea that I kind of had, where we benefit, or the university benefits because it's getting paid to do a service for the students, and the students benefit because they don't have to pay to receive that service. So yeah.
For the presidential candidates, we're going to start with Senator Mellon. What motivated your decision to pick your vice president?
So I wanted someone who was someone that was different from me, and bringing in someone who may not know of the SGA Constitution and bylaws, getting more people known about what SGA is and what we do. And kind of bringing someone new into the fold, kind of hearing their ideas. I think it's important to hear ideas from people who are not just interested in like governance. We need to hear from people who have creative minds, like Maxwell, and seeing all areas of interest, not just through my own lens of what I think is important.
Thank you. And Ms. Amazubi, what motivated your decision to pick your vice president?
So some of you might know this already, but me and Kareem have been co-presidents for the Muslim Student Association for almost 2 years now. And so we've kind of grown together as leaders. We've learned how to work with each other in various ways, different events, different plans. And so it's kind of like tried and proven, I guess. So yeah.
Thank you.
So the next one is for the vice presidential candidates. We'll start with Mr. Bacon. How do you plan on utilizing the coordinating orgs and the dean student advisory boards to your advantage?
Could you repeat the question, Mel?
How do you plan on utilizing the coordinating orgs and the dean student advisory boards to your advantage?
Yeah, I just feel like those boards could help us communicate with students more. I know I use that word a lot, but that would strictly bring in all the freshmen we need, all the new student body in order to really get the SGA known within our community.
And Mr. Kasane, how do you plan on utilizing the coordinating orgs and the dean student advisory boards to your advantage?
I believe they have a better and stronger connection to students. Each organization kind of represents a certain specific category of students. So I believe that they obviously have a connection to their category that they are leading. So by being in close contact with them will allow me to understand them more, because I mean, I'm only one person and I'm governing about, a few thousand students. So that kind of does get difficult for one man. However, when I am able to have the sources of other leaders that are manning smaller groups, I can contact them and see what their people want to help me out to provide the service for everybody.
A question for the presidential candidates. We will start with Senator Mellon. Just a bit of long one, apologies. Considering the importance of representation and safety for African American students on campus, how can the student body government ensure that our voices are heard and our concerns are addressed effectively? What steps will you take to ensure the safety?
So one thing I would like to start utilizing more is the BSU. That stands for Black Student Union. It's one of our biggest organizations on campus. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is the biggest organization on campus. And a great way to make campus safer for African American students on campus is hearing what they have to say, hearing what they want me to do specifically, and then acting on what they want me to do. Hearing what things they like, what things they want improved, and what things they want more emphasis on, and acting upon that in SGA.
Thank you. Ms. Amazuki, how can the student body government ensure that our voices are heard and our concerns are addressed effectively? What steps will you take to ensure the safety?
I would definitely also start with the group who are being affected, the people who are being affected, listen to people from the Black Student Union, going to their events, hearing what they have to say, what are their concerns, and how would they like that safety to be provided, and possibly then connecting them with who can make it happen and whatnot. So.
Thank you.
Okay, for the vice presidential candidates, Mr. Bacon. A big part of being SGA vice president is working with the administration. How will you advocate for students when you feel the administration is doing something that is against students' best interest?
I feel like I would just advocate. I would feel as though I would advocate for them well, seeing as though like I understand as somebody that didn't have a community when first starting out at Wright State, how certain students would feel if we were to take like certain aspects away if they were rooting against us, for example. That's all I could really say on that.
And Mr. Kasane, same question. A big part of being SGA vice president is working with the administration. How will you advocate for students when you feel that the administration is doing something that is against students' best interest?
As simple as calling them out on what it is that they are doing to harm student life or student safety or whatever it may be. I'm never afraid of facing the truth, even if it's against the person that's right in front of me. If it's gonna, I'm basically saying like, I'm not afraid to quote unquote like hurt feelings if it causes change towards the better. I'm more than willing to stand up to our administration for our students and directing them as a student what it is that I want here on campus.
For the presidential candidates, we'll start with Senator Mellon. What would you do differently than previous administration?
Can you repeat the question,
Yeah.
just so I know?
What would you do differently than previous administration?
I'm assuming this question is asking what I would do differently than past SGAs, but definitely speak up, use my voice. I am also not afraid to check administration when they are acting on something that is not within students' best interest. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to get nowhere in my law career if I feel afraid to speak up, use my voice, and kind of check people when they need to be checked. So definitely maintaining constant communication and raising my voice when it needs to be.
Thank you. Ms. Amazuki, what would you do differently than previous administration?
I would look into different ways to receive feedback from students. Again, assuming that it's in terms of SGA. Different ways to receive feedback from students. Some students might not have time or not be able to attend meetings. And so possibly being even active on social media, for example, as a way to receive concerns, comments, or anything like that, and encourage students to voice in their opinions. I'm also looking to be a lawyer, so I'm definitely not afraid to stand up for students on campus. So.
Thank you.
And then the vice presidential candidate, Mr. Bacon, what do you like at Wright State?
I would say I like the fact that I'm very involved with certain communities. What I like most about Wright State is I was a part of the track team, my Amigos Latinos environment, places where I actually feel as though I actually belong to our campus life, and that's what I want to improve on, gathering more students to be a part of that.
Thank you. And Mr. Kasane, what do you like at Wright State?
What do I not like? Okay. I think I feel at home when I'm here. Honestly, it's like I just feel comfortable. The people here are very welcoming. The students are open to other students as well. I feel like the environment here at Wright State, we all realize as students that hey, we're kind of here on the same boat. We came from high school or whatever it may be, and here we are now, going for our majors, chasing our dreams. So the feeling of home.
For the presidential candidates, starting with Senator Mellon, both platforms mentioned fun as an important factor. Why is fun so important in a student government position?
So Student Government Association is an organization on campus. We not only govern the student body, but we are here to make sure that the student body are mentally healthy, like with their mental health. One way to ensure that students are happy on campus and feel safe enough to come up to us with their concerns is making SGA a safe space. And we can do that by creating a fun environment. There's a line between working hard and playing hard, and I really want to build a strong sense of both and having an equality between both. We can have fun and work hard.
Thank you. Ms. Amazuki, the same question. Why is fun so important in a student government position?
I think fun is important in everything, honestly. I tend to sign up for a lot of things, try to be as involved as possible, or like do a lot of work for school and things like that. And so just finding joy in what you do can be motivating to sustain that position in the work that you do in it. So the difference between you going to work or you're going to your SGA meeting and you're in a bad mood from the start of it, you're not willing to perform as good as you possibly can. But if you look at it from, I guess, a joyful perspective, you're more likely to look forward to it and enjoy it and feel kind of that sense of fulfillment through it. So.
Thank you.
Okay, so this will be the last question of the evenings. We're running up on 8 o'clock. So this is for the vice presidential candidates. So Mr. Bacon, you'll be first. If you had to sponsor a resolution today, what would that resolution be?
Could you explain the question? Towards.
If you had to change something on campus, or if you had to make an addition to campus today, what would it be? And yeah, what would that resolution be?
It would have to just involve something regarding our freshmen. I really, I really want more people involved with just understanding that there is a community behind the Wright State doors outside of just our classes and just commuting back home.
And Mr. Kasani, the same question for you. If you had to sponsor a resolution today, what would that resolution be?
Food, definitely. I'll be honest. The food just attracts people. It's just how it is. There's really no science behind it. If there is, I'm not a med student to tell you. But having more access to food, better food, honestly. Because when I'm on campus, really when I want to eat and I didn't pack a lunch with me, I tend to go off campus, kind of like that near that mall area where all the good restaurants are. So kind of that also, and I know a lot of students do that as well. So that kind of takes away from our goal of student life on campus and so on and so forth, because they got to get off campus to get better food. So food. That's my final answer.
Okay, perfect. Thank you to the vice presidential and presidential candidates. This concludes the first half of tonight's Meet the Candidates event, and we'll now take a brief 10-minute break and then return with the senators running for office. Thank you.
We have the three that are here today are Treya Gray for the College of Business, Michael Joe Santana Jr. for the College of Business, and Jalen Albers for the College of Science and Math. And not here today is Katie Ty for the College of Liberal Arts. Each senatorial candidate will have 30 seconds to introduce themselves. Please include your major and academic year. Ms. Gray, you may begin your introduction.
Hi guys, my name is Treya Gray. I'm currently a junior studying marketing with a concentration in business analytics. I currently hold 3 positions right now, e-board positions, one being the president of the National Pan-Hellenic Council, the other one being the president of my chapter, Mighty Zaza chapter of Sigma Gamma Sorority Incorporated, as well as the vice president position of the Black Student Union.
Mr. Santana, please begin your introduction.
My name is Michael Santana. I am an economics student here at Wright State. I have a minor, or I'm getting a minor in mathematics. I plan to go for my PhD at Ohio State whenever I finish my bachelor's here. Additionally, I'm 32 years old. I'm a disabled Army veteran. I have 2 children, and I'm getting married here in October.
Thank you. Ms. Albers, please begin your introduction.
Hi, my name is Jalen Albers, and I am a first-year biological sciences major here, and I'm also on a pre-dental pathway.
Thank you. Each candidate will have 45 seconds to answer each question. You do not have to use all of the 45 seconds, though. To Ms. Gray, what is the most pressing issue for the College of Business today?
I believe that the most pressing issue is getting students out and being able to have them get engaged. A lot of times I feel like students aren't aware of the career fairs or the resources that they have made available, so I feel like some solutions for that would be allowing for a lot of the business organizations, regardless of if it's diverse or if it's just any kind of business organization. I feel like they should collab together so that they can bring more students out, but I also believe that they should give the information to the teachers that are teaching in the business school so that they can have those announcements ready in the beginning of class so that students just know what's going on instead of just eating, sleeping, going to class.
Mr. Santana Jr., what is the most pressing issue facing the College of Business today?
One of the biggest issues I've had since I've been at Wright State has always been difficulty finding the right person to talk to when you have an issue with various things on campus. For instance, when I was looking for information about organizations on campus, even though the website has individuals that are marked, there's contact information, I've found that a lot of the individuals that were marked on there no longer go to this school. It's heavily outdated, and one of the biggest things that we can do to fix that is just update our contact information.
Thank you. Ms. Albers, what is the most pressing issue facing the College of Science and Math?
The most pressing issue in my college right now is a lack of community and a lack of STEM identity. And I think the biggest way we can combat this issue is hosting more events for upperclassmen to introduce themselves to the freshmen and sophomores so that we can all get connected, because I really do believe that freshmen like myself can learn a lot from our older students in the college.
Ms. Gray, how would you describe your legislative platform as a College of Business Senator candidate?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
How would you describe your legislative platform as a College of Business Senator candidate?
I believe that I have a very large platform considering that I've been involved, very involved for the last 3 years of being in school. I feel like being able to have access to all of these organizations, especially with Greek life, I'm able to have contact with people that are involved at all levels. So when I walk into the SIL office, I'm able to be greeted with a bunch of members from the Greek community, and a lot of times the members from the Greek community are leaders of pertaining organizations.
Mr. Santana, how would you describe your legislative platform as a College of Business Senator candidate?
So I only started back up school here about 3 semesters ago at this point. And for me, when I think about moving forward with something like being a senator for Raj Soin, I take time to think about what it means to me to be able to lead and help the students that are around me. The biggest part of that is making sure that I'm constantly evolving. I'm constantly making myself better than I was the day before. And in order to do that, I have to make sure that I'm keeping in contact with everybody that needs to make themselves heard.
Thank you. Ms. Albers, how would you describe your legislative platform as a College of Science and Math Senator candidate?
My legislative platform is going to be based around getting people like myself, like underclassmen, more involved on campus, because I think that the best way to keep students engaged is by getting them involved and understanding the importance of meeting new people and trying new things, because I know that for myself, I've had some pretty rigorous courses already that could have really determined my future, just because they can really get you down sometimes. So I think having a stronger community is going to allow us to all work together and reach our goals even when it gets tough.
Ms. Gray, you're not currently a part of SGA. How familiar are you with the organization's constitution and bylaws, and would you change anything about the organization?
I have honestly no previous knowledge of the Constitution or the bylaws, but with my previous experience, I'm pretty familiar with the typical rules that Wright State has put in their bylaws. One thing, I'm not sure if the organization has put in place already, but something that's helped really well with my 2 organizations are like strike systems. So just holding people accountable and making sure that they get the things done that they say they're going to get done. A lot of times leaders take positions and they don't necessarily think that they have to put in the work that they should, but the strike system just allows for people to know that they are in trouble or that just to hold them accountable.
Thank you. Mr. Santana, you are not currently a part of SGA. How familiar are you with the organization's constitution and bylaws, and would you change anything about the organization?
So as of this point, I've briefly read over the Constitution. I have a very hazy remembrance of everything that's in there. As you said, this is the first time I've ever gone for any SGA position. However, I'm a firm believer of making sure that rules, regulations, things that control the everyday life of students here at Wright State actually work for the students. And the only way I'm going to be able to do that is if I see how these bylaws, how these rules, how the Constitution interacts with the students. To make a judgment before I see how it interacts is not a good idea, in my opinion.
Thank you. And Ms. Albers, the same question for you. You are not currently a part of SGA. How familiar are you with the organization's constitutions and bylaws, and would you change anything about the organization?
While I am not 100% familiar with the Constitution and bylaws, I have attended every weekly SGA meeting this semester, either in person or online. So I'm fully aware of how these meetings work and what is discussed and how to bring issues up. But if there would ever be a circumstance in which I would want to change something, I would be comfortable trying to do that.
Thank you. Ms. Gray, can you please explain the role of the SGA Senate and how would you advocate for your constituency?
The role for SGA Senate, I feel as if they hold most of the power. They're able to vote on the things that are going on. So with that being said, I honestly would like to be the Senate of the United States of America. So I just feel like this is practice. And I feel as if understanding the people around you is the most important part. When you're a leader, you have to understand that you work for the people that you are leading. It's not the other way around. They do not work for you. They're there to help you gather the availability. Let me phrase this. Okay, they're there to help you delegate the duties that you know have to be done in order to get something done. Yeah.
Mr. Santana Jr., same question to you. Can you please explain the role of the SGA Senate and how you would advocate for your constituency?
In my opinion, the Senate here at Wright State for the SGA, it is our job to bridge the gap between the students and the faculty by taking time to speak with students and making myself as available as I possibly can. It will allow me to take that one-on-one time to really understand what the students are feeling, how I can help them, and generally the best direction to head with the help that I can provide them. I want to make sure that the students that come to me understand that I have put as much thought into their concerns as I can with the time that I have available.
Ms. Albers, the same to you. Can you please explain the role of the SGA Senate and how you would advocate for your constituency?
My role as the SGA Senate would be to connect students to faculty and to show students different resources on campus that they can use within the college. And I think the best way to do this is just by forming connections with people, getting to know people, and hearing new perspectives as to things that can be changed, things that are working, things of that nature, and also being able to explain to students maybe why faculty is doing something to help them get a new perspective as well.
Ms. Gray, this is a two-part question. First, how would you work with the Vice President to develop Senate-endorsed resolutions for the administration to follow? And then second,
how would you resolve Senate conflicts or deadlock in the case of contentious legislation?
Can you repeat the first part?
Of course. How would you work with the Vice President to develop Senate-endorsed resolutions for the administration to follow?
I would work with the Senate by bringing them information that, I'm sorry, can you please repeat?
Yeah. How would you work with the Vice President to develop Senate-endorsed resolutions for the administration to follow?
Okay, so I will go ahead and listen to the students and their concerns. So one thing that I believe that we should do a little bit differently is kind of getting more students' perspective, other than just the students that attend the SGA meetings. Now, I feel like a lot of students don't have knowledge of the SGA meetings, but something that could help with that is kind of starting, well, for the Black Student Union, for example, we have something called Black Reality Talks, where we have it, where the students come in and they sit down and they explain their issues, and then we go ahead and have a faculty session, and they come in and we come up with like solutions for them to help us with. So I feel like having the students actually give us the solutions and the faculty actually helping and creating something like that would help, or actually listening and having the students that come from the Black Student Union or from the other organizations that sit in the SGA meetings go ahead and give us those issues so that we can come up with more solutions. And then what was the second part?
The second one was, how would you resolve Senate conflicts or deadlock in the case of contentious legislation?
I believe that if there is a deadlock, correct me if I'm wrong, that is when there's a vote that isn't, that's even in your, okay. So with that being said, I feel like we would have to go back through and everybody kind of give their point of view, because for a lot of times when people have conversations or things like that happen, it's miscommunication. And with miscommunication, I feel like having a few conversations or just looking over things one more time can let you come to a conclusion a lot faster or a lot easier.
Mr. Santana, the same two-part question for you.
Do you mind reading it one at a time?
Yeah. First, how would you work with the Vice President to develop Senate-endorsed resolutions for the administration to follow?
I would take the time to make sure that, one, I understand everything that the Vice President needs me to do in order to work forward on any legislation that they want to pass through. But also, I want to take the time to take that legislation and disperse it across the Raj Soin College in order to let the students see the kind of inner workings of how the Senate goes here at Wright State, in order to allow the individual students access into something that they normally would have to go to a meeting to see. I would take the time to make sure that students that wanted to know did know.
Thank you. And second, how would you resolve Senate conflicts or deadlock in the case of contentious legislation?
In my opinion, a lot of the issues that come from people running into deadlock, so to speak, it comes from them not understanding why other people are making the decisions that they are. In order to make a good decision, you need to know the side that you agree with and the side you disagree with, and figure out a way to make those two sides work together. If you can't find a way to do that, you're not going to be able to find a solution that's going to allow for the greatest possible growth.
Ms. Albers, the same two-part question for you. We can start with the first question. How would you work with the Vice President to develop Senate-endorsed resolutions for administration to follow?
I think the first step I would take is doing research on what it is that we are trying to pass, try to get as many perspectives as possible, and talk to the other senators of the other colleges to kind of be on the same page so that I'm not taking an issue to the Vice President that is only like my issue, but to make sure it is something that a lot of other people agree with, and then just setting up a meeting with them or bringing it up during a meeting.
And your second question, how would you resolve Senate conflicts or deadlock in the case of contentious legislation?
If there was a deadlock on an issue, I would go out of my way, again, to get more perspectives on both sides rather than maybe just my own, to try to talk to people who on the other side to see why they voted the way they did, and the same for myself, and to try to kind of come to an understanding of maybe a different type of solution that we can come up with.
Ms. Gray, what proposals would you make to improve the student experience in the College of Business, specifically regarding student engagement? Please be specific.
Well, I can expand on what I had already kind of stated. So I really would like to see all of the organizations kind of have a lot more collaborations, just so they could bring out more of a crowd, allow for networking. But something specific that I would like to see is allowing for the entrepreneurs and the business students to have easy access to pop-up shops and other things like that, because I believe that other schools have that, and a lot of the issues that we have currently is that there's a lot of paperwork and things that we have to go through in order to actually have a pop-up shop on campus, which isn't fair to the entrepreneur students or the business students in general, especially because we have a lot of students that aren't even business students that have businesses, and I feel like they should be able to actively network and do what they can do on campus without all of the hassle.
Thank you. Mr. Santana, what proposals would you make to improve the student experience in the College of Business, specifically regarding student engagement? Please be specific.
When I think about how people engage and work together for these organizations, a lot of it revolves around what they do and what they don't know. One of the things that I'd want to do is make a centralized posting board that has all of the legislation, all of the rules, everything that we have passed and will pass being publicly made public, so it's easy to access instead of having to hunt for it online. If you want to know it, you can just go to a board that, say it's set in front of the Raj Soin Dean's office. And you can follow through and find anything that you might want to know of without having to hunt for it online.
Ms. Albers, a similar question for you. What proposals would you make to improve the student experience in the College of Science and Math, specifically regarding student engagement? Please be specific.
The first thing I would do is work with the Dean's Circle to try to host more events that target freshmen, especially at the beginning of the semesters, to show them that getting involved it doesn't have to be a scary thing, and it doesn't have to be a rigorous process, but rather it's something that is encouraged and something that's really important to be successful as a student, aside from just classwork. Another thing that I would do is try to work with the professors that teach major specific courses such as biology, like seminar, and biochemistry seminar, try to get them to incorporate a type of assignment where they have to show proof of trying to get involved. Even if they don't like the organization, maybe just making it mandatory to attend a meeting of any organization on campus.
Thank you. Ms. Gray, please describe a leadership position you have held in the past. How will it help you in this senator position?
Well, I've held multiple presidencies, so I believe that having all of these presidencies gives me a wider range of students that I'm actually connected to. So for example, with the Black Student Union, it's the Black umbrella org for all of the Black organizations, so I have access to all of the Black organizations, not just the Black Student Union, but also on top of that, with me being Greek, like I said before, I am attached to a huge community of people that are great leaders. And I believe that with that being said, I also have multiple leaders that are around me currently, so I'm constantly learning every single day. I feel like as a leader, you have to learn and grow and work with the people that you're with, because not only am I teaching people and growing and building leaders into the people that I would like for them to be, and that they would like to be, but I'm also learning and growing from them. So as a leader, you have to know how to learn from the people that you're teaching.
Mr. Santana, the same question for you. Please describe a leadership position you have held in the past, and how will it help you in this senator position?
So before we start the time, I want to clarify something. Do you want something that's recent, or is any an option? Because I am a little bit older than my constituents here.
I believe any should work fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
If any works, then we can reference back to when I was in high school, back in the ancient year of 2008. I was the commander for the AFJ ROTC unit at my high school. And being in that type of role, you have to deal with the better part of 100 students, be able to help them organize their time, show them how to run the systems that you need them to run. That way you don't have to do everything on your own. By learning how to give instruction and give out different tasks to the people that are capable of doing them, it allows me to maximize the amount of time that I have and the amount of effort that my team can provide, as it allows them to meet their own potential on their own terms.
The same to you, Ms. Albers. Please describe a leadership position you have held in the past. How will it help you in the senator position?
So I am currently the VP of Finance for Miracle Makers, as well as the Vice President of the Pre-Health Society. So being the VP of Finance for Miracle Makers, it's really helped me get a new perspective on different majors and how they can correlate to the College of Science and Math, because Miracle Makers would be a great organization for a lot of us to get involved in. So seeing that perspective has been helpful. And then specifically the Pre-Health Society, a lot of those members are also part of the College of Science and Math. So being able to meet new people and get new perspectives on how they view the college is also going to be really helpful.
We are on our final question. Ms. Gray, what do you hope people will take away from this debate about your candidacy?
I most definitely would like for people to know that I have the leadership experience and the networking experience in order to succeed within this position, and that I will do everything that I can when somebody brings me a problem. I'm a very passionate person when it comes to getting business done. When something comes my way, I believe that I have to go above and beyond in order to get it completed, especially with any organization that I join. I believe that I have to do my best to learn and grow and become the person that I need to be to serve the people that are in the community that I'm in at that moment.
Mr. Santana, what do you hope people take away from this debate about your candidacy?
I would hope that people can look at me and see past the relatively gruff exterior that I usually have, and see that I'm here for you. And I'm willing to step up and do everything I can to help any and all of the people that I'm put in charge of. I have no visions of grandeur. I'm a simple, quiet man, and I enjoy the idea of helping other students meet their goals, because it's all about seeing the smile at the end of the day for me.
Thank you.
Ms. Albers, what do you hope to take away from this debate about your candidacy?
I hope that people can look at me and see that I'm willing to be a friend. I'm someone that is going to speak up for people, no matter how difficult a subject may be. Along with that, I'm willing to hear new perspectives and learn from them. And I'm not scared to maybe make tough decisions to benefit people in my college.
At this time, we will now move to any online and in-person questions we have received.
This is for the College of Business Senators. We'll start with Ms. Gray. Within the past few years, the College of Business has had several professors retire or leave. This has caused many students to push back their expected graduation due to the lack of classes being offered. How will you use your position as SGA Senator to help students face this challenge?
I believe that I have access to a lot of adults, especially educators, that are willing to come in and step up. A lot of people that I feel like the school hasn't considered yet. And also, I feel like another solution for that would be to implement contracts or make sure that we have a new class of professors coming in every single year so that we prevent that retention. I feel like it's unfair for students to have their graduation date pushed back just because they don't have access to a certain class or a certain professor. If there is a class being presented for one semester, it most definitely should be presented for the next semester, especially if somebody needs it to graduate. It's very inconsiderate of the school to not have a backup plan for when a professor does leave. So I believe that making sure that we have a system, especially if it's maybe grad students that are coming out from undergrad, that could be put into a position within their college in order to teach a certain subject. So we could do it that way as well. But that's all I have to say.
To Mr. Santana, the same question. The professors leaving has caused many students to push back their expected graduation due to lack of classes being offered. How will you use your position as SGA Senator to help students face this challenge?
So while it is a terrible situation that people have to push back their own plans and their own goals because of a situation like a teacher retiring, it's important to realize that instructors are people too. They have their goals and life plans that they're working towards. While it may be difficult to plan around these situations, it's important to understand and show compassion for what are just people working through life like anybody else is. For me, in this position, there's no one method that's going to fix something like this. What's important is we take time to discuss with the faculty that are here and figure out why teachers are leaving, figure out what they would like in order to stay. Enacting things that would force someone to do something is, quite frankly, just a difficult concept for me to wrap my head around, as the only way to get a good job done in anything that you do is going to be based around wanting to do it.
Okay, and then this question is for Ms. Albers. Many of the students in the College of Science and Math have problems with their professors. How would you encourage them to approach them?
So I think the first thing to look at is to understand where the problem's coming from. Is it coming because of the teaching style, or is it coming because of the difficulty of the course? Because I know that I've run into issues where I've had classmates who have talked poorly about a professor when the real issue just came from them not understanding the course material and kind of pushing that onto the professor, whereas it might have just been a lack of preparation for the class in general. So I think the first step is for students to kind of look to other sources too, like tutoring and those kinds of things, but also just encouraging attending office hours and putting that as the number one thing to do, because really nothing's going to become resolved if they don't take that first step themselves.
Absolutely, and then there's a second part too, which is how would you get College of Science and Math students more involved with SGA?
I think, again, I would work with the Dean's Circle to kind of try to do something together events. I know that one event that has been really successful in the past for Dean Circle was the boba tea and painting night. I had not attended it because it was last year and I wasn't a student yet, but hosting more events like that to get students aware would be really beneficial.
The next question is a general question for all three candidates, but we will start with Ms. Gray. What is the biggest and most significant problem at your respective college? And how do you plan on tackling and solving that problem? Please be specific.
I believe that the biggest problem would be lack of communication. I believe that there should be things put into place that allow communication for students. As far as me being the Senate in SGA, I would be able to walk around campus and kind of in-person pub, especially for big events such as career fairs. Maybe we might have a speaker that's coming in. We might have clubs that people don't even know about that pertain to their majors. So I just want to make sure that everybody is aware. Also, with marketing, we have to go ahead and put out good events and have good bulletin boards, trifolds, tabling, etc.
Thank you. And Mr. Santana, the same question for you. What is the biggest and most significant problem at your respective college, and how do you plan to tackle/solve the problem? Please be specific.
So, going into this type of question, it's very difficult to pinpoint one specific problem, and it's not for a lack of looking, it's for a lack of clarity. It's hard to see what's affecting the college more because every person in the college is different. Everybody has different experiences and struggles with different parts of the bureaucratic process here at Wright State. For me personally, when I think of the hardest part of Raj Soin, it's the difficulty of finding electives that work for my major that actually hold some sort of significance to me. There's plenty of electives that don't seem to feel relevant to what I want to do. So it's hard to take those types of classes when you don't feel invested into taking them. And for me, one of the things I'm wanting to do is try to push for more, not necessarily open, but more acceptable options for elective classes for majors.
Thank you. And then finally, Mrs. Albers, the same question. What is the biggest and most significant problem at your respective college, and how do you plan to tackle/solve that problem? Please be specific.
I think one of the biggest problems is people losing motivation for science and math, and I think one of these issues comes from a lack of STEM identity, which I kind of mentioned earlier, but basically what that means is that students might not be able to see themselves in the career, so they kind of lose passion because they don't see people like themselves pursuing the same field that they are in. And I think a great way to combat this issue would be to maybe have guest speakers come in of various backgrounds and to show students, like even me as a female, that I can do it too.
So this is a general question for all candidates. How would you feel about standing up / against someone in a position of power at the school?
I actually, okay, am I going first? You didn't say something?
Start with Mr. Santana.
Could you repeat the question one more time?
How do you feel about standing up / against someone in a position of power at the school?
Over the time that I've been working and living my life, there have been a substantial amount of people that I've disagreed with that have been above me or direct managers of me. I am a man of integrity, and if I see something wrong, I am not scared to call someone out for doing something that should not be done the way it is. And I apologize if that sounds a little a roundabout. I have a history of being in the military. I was a mechanic for years, so it's a little hard to keep things rated E with my speech sometimes. However, I have no problem talking to people that are in a position of authority and telling them that they need to change what they're doing. I did not get where I am by allowing people to walk over me.
Ms. Alex,
Do you mind repeating the question?
how do you feel about standing up / against someone in a position of power at the school?
I feel pretty comfortable standing up for something that I know is right, but the first steps I would take to do that is kind of getting information on my standpoint and making sure that I have a solid argument, and then going from there, standing up for it, I would not have an issue with, because if it's going to benefit the students in my college, then I'm all for it. And I think there are definitely respectful ways to go about doing that, where it doesn't have to be a huge confrontation or anything like that. I think just kind of meeting the person in authority with where I'm at and showing them why maybe a decision they make didn't benefit students would be the best way to do that.
I believe that it's not necessarily what you say, but it's how you say it, so that when you go and have a conversation with the administration, they might not necessarily know that what they're doing is wrong. So approaching it and knowing how to approach it and gathering information based off of what the issue is the best way to get to the problem. I actually have a lot of experience working with standing up to authority, or like speaking in front of authority. One example being when I was in a co-op, we had a racial issue, and I was the driving force that allowed for the council that was a part of the co-op I was the driving force that allowed for them to set up a meeting with the administrators, and I definitely stood up in front of the person that made me feel uncomfortable and made the racist remarks and told her that it was not okay that what she did. And from there, we actually had resolutions, and we had them redesign the organization so that they had equity and diversity training. And then I also have experience with testifying in front of a bunch of senators for House Bill 8, which is a House bill that has to do with the digital divide, which is the difference between people with technology and Wi-Fi and people that don't. But basically, I had to stand in front of them, gather information and from different resources, and go ahead and present my case.
All right, and this is a general question for all candidates, but we're going to start with Mr. Santana. How do you plan to represent minorities in your college?
So, for me, when I look at students, you need to understand that when I look at you guys and gals, that I'm looking at you from a fairly substantial age gap. I look at all of the energy on your faces. I see all of the excitement you have for the future that you're working towards. I see the tired. I see the razzled, the frazzled, the ready to drop during exams. I do not care what race, creed, religion, ethnicity, it does not matter to me. I will go to bat for anything I feel is right. It does not make a difference on a person based off of anything like that. You are weighed by the content of your character. And I would not treat anybody any different just because they are a different race or believe in a different God than I do.
Thank you. And then the same question for Ms. Gray. How do you plan to represent minorities in your college?
Well, with such large access to all of the diverse communities, I spend a lot of my time in the diversity and inclusion centers, A lot of my time is spent also doing collaboration events. For example, we did a collaboration event with the Women's Center as well as a bunch of other Black women organizations. We did a poetry event as well as a tea party. So I would like to do a lot of collaborations with SGA as well. I see myself collaborating with my sorority, with the Black Student Union, with FSC, everything like that. And then with that being said, I know from personal experience what the diverse students experience going to this school. So being able to have that voice and actually know what people are going through, I'm gonna make sure, like I said from before, I will set up a meeting and make sure we talk to the authorities to make sure that everything is equal.
Thank you. And then Ms. Halvers, how do you plan to represent minorities in your college?
One way to do this, I've had experience kind of trying to get more perspectives as a pre-health society member because we're trying to kind of incorporate new events and collaborations with the culture and identity centers just to get new perspectives from something that I may not be able to relate to or someone with a different background from me. So I think starting there and seeing things from a new lens is very important. I think in the College of Science and Math, it's also very crucial to be able to represent minorities because there had been a study done in China where they asked students to draw a scientist and all of them drew a white male. And I think just kind of recognizing that what people think a scientist looks like versus what it can look like, which is someone like me or you, is really important in my college.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Our next question is, again, a general question for everybody involved, but the first person will be Mr. Santana. How do you plan on prioritizing SGA over other commitments / positions you have on campus?
So for me, I'm a member of the Economics Club here at Wright State. I'm also the president of Omicron Delta Epsilon, the Economics Honor Society. Unlike a lot of people that would be in a position like what I am right now, I do not have a requirement to do anything beyond what I have to do here at school. I have the time, the energy, the passion, and quite frankly, the drive to go out of my way and make sure that I'm putting the highest level of effort into everything I'm doing. Whether it's just my schoolwork, SGA, or my presidential duties for ODE. I make sure that my responsibilities are met. I make sure that if I tell you I'm doing something, it's going to get done. It's so exciting to even have an opportunity to help such a large body of students. That's all.
That's fine. Ms. Grace, same question for you. How do you plan on prioritizing SGA over other commitments / positions you have on campus?
I feel like it comes directly down to time management. I am one of those types of people that plans out their week every single week. I write down every single org, I write down every single class, and then I plan out every single day, the day before, from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. or whenever I'm finished. I also am always on campus and available. You're always going to see my face. I'm always in SIL. I'm always in the Belinga Center, the diversity centers. I know that I'm one of those people that's always going to get something done regardless of what's asked of me. So with that being said, I feel like you guys can be comfortable with me in the position, because I know that if you ask me to get something done, I might get it done, but I might also bring 10 other things to the table.
Thank you so much. And then lastly, Ms. Albers, same question for you. How do you plan on prioritizing SGA over other commitments/positions you have on campus?
For me, it also comes down to time management and balance. I do have a busy schedule, but that's also something that I love. I love getting involved and getting to talk to new people and do things like that. I have a very detailed planner as well that I use, and I do set aside free time for myself, and I also set aside time for clubs and for studying and homework, so I know when I will have time for this and when I maybe need to make time for other things as well. And prioritizing SGA, I know that if I make a commitment to something, I have to get it done, and not only that, I want to get it done to the best of my ability, so I know that I would not be in this position if I knew that I couldn't commit my full self to it.
Thank you. And then this is also for all candidates. We're going to start with Ms. Albers. How do you plan to make your school better?
I plan to make my school better by having more events for the College of Science and Math, and things that might not even be really related to science and math, but just ways to hang out and get to know people and create more of a community, and to show people that like it can be fun, even though that sometimes the classes can be pretty difficult.
Thank you. And now the same question for Mr. Santana. How do you plan to make your school better?
For me, I want to make sure that students have the most access to information that they can. And in order to do that, I plan to make myself as available as possible. For me, if I get elected into this position, I plan to set up office hours in public instead of in an office. I want people to be able to feel free to come to me, bring their issues, bring their griefs, or if they even just want to say hi. I want the students to know that I am there to answer their questions, that I'm willing to step up and give them the guidance that they need or want. At the end of the day, like I said earlier, helping people to get that smile is really what makes it for me.
Thank you. And then the same question for Ms. Gray. How do you plan to make your school better?
I have a lot of experience with revamping, considering my major is actually marketing. So one of the things that I would love to do is have a little bit more events with the Ray Ray Cafe, maybe do a little bit more of their social media. I'm really experienced with social media. I've held social media positions in multiple organizations. So I believe that meeting the students where they're at is important as far as social media. So we could go ahead and, I'm not sure if the college actually has a Instagram yet, but we could do things like take a photo shoot, do better flyers. We could have interviews with the teachers, with different students. I don't know if you guys have seen those videos around where they walk up to students and ask random questions. I feel like that would be fun to have the students engage and actually understand that the College of Business is more, there's way more for you to have access to versus you just going to your classes. So if we have a bigger social media platform and have QR codes around, or we in-person pub and pass out flyers with the Instagram and the QR code and explain who we are, personally, I feel like will really work.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so this concludes our 2024 SGA debate. I want to take a moment to again thank all of our candidates, both for the senatorial positions and our vice presidential and presidential candidates as well. And thank you also to the audience members for coming to participate. Voting for the student governing body is online on Wings and is open from April 6th at 12 noon until April 12th at 5 p.m. Thank you again, and please get home safely.